Now, Callum, switching gears here, we played a bit of Gravity Rush Remastered.
Mm,
This is an old PS4 remaster of a I want to say a Vita game originally, right?
yeah, yeah.
Nice. So yeah, we are talking about kind of going back and playing some older PS titles, and this is one that was on my list for a long time, and so I just needed a good excuse to jump into it. But how are you? You've been playing it a bit. Now, we're also not the biggest experts on the game. Like, I haven't finished it.
Mhm.
I'm about 4 hours, I want to say, into it. Um, but I am pretty positive on it. How are you feeling about this game?
Yeah, I think I'm probably 2, maybe 3 hours in, and it's taken me a little bit to get to grips with. I think the controls are just the way the game controls and everything is a little bit finicky and fiddly, but I feel like I'm starting to finally get that down now, especially with the kind of like challenge missions that are kind of dotted around and sort of doing those and trying to sharpen up my controls. But as I've sort of been playing it more and more, I'm kind of understanding it a bit more, and I'm understanding especially that it's quite nice to navigate. You know, it's very easy to understand where you need to go. The map tells you where everything is. There seems to be like a fairly basic loop of NPCs to talk to get some storyline, and then your actual mission marker. And so as I'm sort of starting to understand how it wants me to play it, I'm enjoying it a bit more. But yeah, it's cool. It's a very unique looking game. I didn't realize how Japanese it was. It's almost like a manga kind of style to the cutscenes, and the graphics are kind of almost like a water, not a watercolor, but you know, that kind of like comic book,
Yeah, I get
but
that vibe.
3D stylized. So it looks kind of weird at times, but ultimately it looks nice. But yeah, I'm enjoying it. I'm interested to see where it goes. I'm not really too sure on the story. Not entirely sure what's going on. I've just like gone and stolen some furniture for my little home, and then went and stole a staff or a detective who wasn't a detective or something.
Yeah, I remember that.
But yeah, yeah, weird stuff. Definitely weird stuff going on in the story. But yeah, it's really cool. It's a game, yeah, also that I've always wanted to try out. And yeah, I think it's a very unique game. But so far, it's just a little bit fiddly. I'm not very good at it yet, and I'm finding it quite hard to play. But I feel like that's kind of the point, and it will get easier, hopefully.
Yeah, and you mentioned you're collecting furniture for your apartment. I've done that mission, and
Yeah,
she lives in the sewer, so she
yeah,
chooses to live in the
yes.
sewer and get some furniture for her house.
And her name's Cat, and she has a cat, but the cat is called Dusty, but her name's Cat, which
And
is a little bit confusing.
that cat is dope. Like, it's just like a
Yeah,
silhouette with
and the
like
cat
space behind it.
is all the powers, isn't it?
I
Like
believe
she
so.
doesn't actually have any powers. The cat does, which is why when you like shift up and there's like people around you that might get like pulled up with it.
I love that. I love
Yeah,
that.
that is
It's
really cool.
hilarious.
Yeah, but how are you finding the like the actual shifting and like zooming and stopping and going where you want to go? Is that something you're kind of getting better at? Did like because I struggled with it at first, but after doing some of the races, I think it's starting to like tighten up a little bit.
Yeah, it's I'm in the same boat where it was a bit you know, hard to not hard to understand, but it's like, okay, I get the kind of concept. I'm floating around. Sometimes it's not as precise as I would like,
Mm.
but it gets easier. And then there's other stuff you unlock, or I just figured out I could do it and it was there from the beginning. But you can basically, in addition to going into any point, in three-dimensional space, you can also like grind or slide. It's basically like your Tony Hawk sliding on any flat plane,
Mm.
and it's you're going forward, and it's just like you're skating or something. That's really fun. So I'll just like
Mm.
skate around. Um, you have your jump in the air, and then tell the character where you want to go, and then any flat surface becomes like that's
Yeah,
your point that you're walking
yeah,
around. It's cool. Sometimes I'm not as exact as I'd like to be, and that's where it gets a little frustrating if I have to be kind
yeah.
of on point.
And there's some weird thing. I think moving the controller aims her, but so does the analog stick. I think it's got some of that like PlayStation Vita
Yeah.
motion control in there in some way. I haven't really played around with it, but I've noticed that moving the controller can make her go in weird directions. But I'm trying to. That's one thing I'm trying to get better at is when you do launch, is sort of controlling her in midair. So I've noticed that you can almost like glide and be quite granular with what you want to do. But I'm just getting to grips with that. It's quite difficult to control, but it's just unique enough to kind of keep it interesting, and I think the combat uses it quite nicely. You know, you have like the enemies which have like the weak points on like the top of their back, which means you've got to try and get above them and go down on them.
Hmm.
And some of them got to say a bit pervy,
Well,
the
it's yeah, this
enemies,
is
and the
kind of in
game in
line.
general actually is a bit pervy. Um, I started a side mission, which I think is actually DLC, and it's like a maid mission. So I'm now wearing some like maid costume, and then you've got to go fight those like weird legs almost that have like a weirdly big arse that always is also where the weak point is. So you got to punch them
Yeah.
in the arse, and yeah, kind of, yeah, some kind of like pervy stuff going on, but it's good. It's cool. It's that Japanese kind of
It's cultural differences,
style.
I'd say.
Yeah, yeah. It's not quite as like egregious as maybe it's like Persona, where you've got like you're fighting actual penises, but it's
That's awesome.
yeah, it's like a baby's first version of that kind of
Yeah.
um, erotica. But it's good. Yeah, I like it. I like it a lot, and I think playing it today is the first time where I've spent maybe like more than an hour and a half with it, and I think that's kind of what I needed to for it to really break on me. So yeah, I'm gonna definitely finish it, and I'm hearing the Gravity Rush 2 is very good as well. So maybe if we like it enough, we can move on to that one afterwards.
Yeah, I'm starting to get at this point in the game just a bit I wouldn't say bored, but a lot of the stuff kind of ends up feeling the same.
Mm.
The mechanics that I'm just doing over and over again. So, but I'm hoping that passes. But yeah, at this point, I'm kind of so
And
on it.
does the
But I'm
story start making sense or not really?
no, but sort of. There is some kind of, there's other like you do find another character like you that has some kind of animal
Mm.
ability that's controlling. So like there is that. You're connecting these different. You're in this weird floating city. This is where the game
Mm.
takes place, and you are connecting these other parts that have been fractured. But then you meet these other characters that kind of control everything, but they don't make any sense. So I don't know if I'm looking for it to tie together, but or to make any kind of sense whatsoever. But it is fun. Like when you nail the
Mm.
maneuverability, like when you're flying and you're hitting these points you want to hit, it's very fun. Like I really dig
Mm.
that. It's just like the flow, the speed of it.
And I think that Kat is a great character as well. Like she's really funny and
Yeah.
likable, and um, yeah, it's really cool. And I like this quest I'm doing at the moment, this side quest, which yeah, I think is DLC because the trophies that I'm getting for doing this quest are in like a DLC trophy list, so it must like come included with the version or whatever. But yeah, be basically doing like I had to go and get like an ice cream and all these ingredients for this like really rich woman and get it back to her before it melted.
Oh.
And I think with how the maneuver, like how you maneuver around the world, doing these kind of like time sensitive things where you got to like go to this place, stasis it so it's like you're like dragging it with you, and then go somewhere, and it's just really fun, and and the kind of moments between Kat and this really rich woman who she's working for, they're quite funny. So yeah, so I'm currently not actually progressing the main story. I'm just doing this side thing, and then I'll probably crack on. But yeah, I'm starting to really get it, I think, and it's not at all what I expected either. I don't know whether it's the same for you. Like I always thought Gravity Rush was a kind of like a puzzle game.
Mm.
I had no idea it was like a proper Japanese action adventure game, and I didn't realize how stylized it was either with the kind of manga cutscenes and comic book kind of style. So yeah, it's pleasantly surprised me, and after playing it today, I'm really looking forward to getting back to it.
Yeah, and I guess I always remember just the 3D mechanics, like moving around in 3D space, and it seemed really wild to me. And that's always how it stood out. But I really knew nothing else about it. This would be a game where if I still had a Vita, it'd be a blast to just have this in my pocket, in my backpack. So it's like when I have some downtime, pop open a level, play it a bit, and then put it back. I think that would really, the gameplay itself really lends well to just like play it in chunks
Mm,
along the way.
yeah.
The you mentioned the just how funny it is. Yeah, it's that was one of my notes where it's like this. The dialogue is very funny, like or just like the weird stuff that happens in the town. You can pick up the people with you, fly across. You can basically beat them, and they'll just kind of like cower. It's like it's just a very funny world to exist in.
Yeah, yeah, and it's yeah, it's definitely got like a charm to it I didn't expect, which it definitely starts to shine through the sort of the more you kind of go through it. And I think the only thing as well is the combat. I'm enjoying, again, the more I play it, mainly because the enemy variation seems to be stepping up every time I enter like an enemy sort of encounter. So I'm hoping that continues. And they kind of make you do different things. You know, they make you sort of try and use your different moves and try and use the gravity and things. Um, but yeah, I'm not. I think that's probably the only part I'm not sure on, is the combat. I don't know whether it gets a bit better, or you start unlocking more moves. But I think that's probably the weakest part of it that I've sort of seen so far. I find
Yeah.
it just doesn't read that well. I don't think like dodging feels very satisfying. But I do enjoy the some of the bigger enemies. Like when you get that sort of weak spot hit, it does feel very satisfying. So it is a bit of a mixed bag.
Yeah, with the combat, I feel the same way where it's just a bit sluggish at times.
Mm,
And then when you're flying, I feel a little more confident. But of course, like if the game really doesn't want you to just like stand on the ground and go
yeah.
to toe to toe. It wants you to fly around, which I get. But I just wish it was just a bit speedier, more responsive when
Mm,
I'm. So I feel like I'm linking almost like combos together, and I'm jumping from one character to another, almost like a
yeah.
lock on kind of thing is what it needs.
Yeah.
Something
Yeah.
Devil May Cry, like arcadey. I would think it would really fit this world.
Yeah.
And the art style is really dope. Like I found being very positive on just like not only the world, but like you mentioned the manga, like just like cutscenes almost, where they're just like going character to character in the dialogue, or there's even these like in between cutscenes where you can move the page around, like it's like just like a
Mm,
3D thing where you can kind of warp like how it looks. That was really really dope, and yeah, I think it's the style of that they set back when this game came out. It holds up because yeah, we're playing a remaster, but because it's this cell shady kind of thing,
mm.
it still looks good or it still looks playable at this point.
Yeah, and I think the character designs are awesome. Again, Cat
Yep.
looks really, really cool. Alias, is it? This sort of villainous character I've just encountered.
The
They
redhead.
got like a weird mask on, very
Oh yes. Oh
evil
no.
kind
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
looking.
Mhm.
Yeah, and some of the other characters as well. They're just a really cool style. And it feels taken straight out of like a manga or an anime, like with these characters, and they are very heavily stylized. And yeah, I just think, especially Kat, I think when she like turns red and she has these powers and her eyes go like bright. It's yeah, it's really really cool. I'm really enjoying it. It's just been a bit of a slow burner, which I think maybe it's been the same for you. And obviously we wanted to maybe finish it in time, but yeah, I think just the nature of the game is very different to play. It kind of requires a little bit longer before you really get it and get into the groove of it. So I think I'll definitely finish it up over the week and then maybe look into the second one. But I know also there's a lot of games coming up next week, which I'm very interested in.
Yeah, it's we'll see how this fits with just our regular lives. But the time I got to
Yeah.
spend with it was cool, and I'm glad I did get to try it because it was always on my list. I am now curious with Gravity Rush 2 if they
Mm,
improve on some of the feel of the mechanics. It makes me think
mm,
of like just what Insomniac does with movement, where it's like I feel like if you could give this property, it's got to be Japanese for sure, but like as far as just like the movement mechanics, it could lend itself well to another studio bringing this thing back up again and controlling or tackling the movement aspects of it, because it's like there's something there where it's like it could be a bit more arcadey and it would be really really fun if they focused on that movement more.
yeah, I think that's always the danger of revisiting series, isn't it? As you play one and you're like, oh, I wonder how they improved on this in the second one, and then you're stuck. But at least there is only two of them. But I'm really interested. Yeah, I don't know if there is any talk of a third one. I know that they're making like a movie, aren't they, of it or something, or a
There is a
TV
movie being
series.
made, yes.
Um, so yeah, I wonder if that will then spark on maybe a revisit to the series. So it might be a good time for us to get involved, because it might be time for a third one to be announced or something else like that.
Yeah, so this game, just going into Wikipedia, this game was from Japan Studio, Sony Japan Studio. Now that in 2001 was reorganized and merged into Team Asobi and other SIE
Mm,
studios. So I don't know who's left or what's left that would. There's a property that Sony owns still, but like who would even tackle this thing again, because
mm.
that original dev has now been spread across all these other studios. So I don't know.
And Asobi, they're the ones who made the little Astro bot
Yes, Astro's
things. Yeah.
Playroom VR. Yeah,
Well, I mean, surely they're working on something. I mean, who's to say maybe they're not
true.
taking the reins? I mean, because I think there's some that studio we've all been waiting for quite a while for, what's next for them. So that could be interesting. Um, but yeah, I'm glad that I'm glad that you sort of thought about Gravity Rush, because it's something that just kind of completely escaped my brain that it existed, and it is a big well, it's a fairly big property that I just never got around to, and now playing it, it's surprised me in lots of different ways. So I'm glad that I've done that. And yeah, it'll be the same, I guess, for when I finally play Death Stranding as well. I suppose it'll be a similar kind of
Yep.
thing.
Awesome, Calma. We'll end the show and the PlayStation Book Club there for the week. You can catch us online. I know you're Barry Monroe on Twitter. You can keep track of us on Twitter as well at Plastic Art Pod. But we'll end it there for the week, Callum. If you'll give everyone a big kiss, good night.
Good night.
Okay, let's go.